Is it on? Can you hear? Is it on, Samir? Oh, okay. All right. So let me tell you then that in the United Kingdom, or in the developing world, the maternity service that we have in the UK, it's looked upon as a model of excellence. Is that what you think? That in the UK, midwifery is an excellent resource, but it's not as perfect as you would like to think. We strive, we work for perfection all of the time. And if I tell you that in the last 10 years in the UK, the maternity services have improved significantly. But here's a statistic for you. In the UK, every single woman who loses her life as a result of being pregnant or childbirth, every single one is recorded and every single one is commented upon so that we can learn from what happened to improve the service. Those statistics are published in a document like that. It's always 3 years behind. So the latest one covers 2009 to 2012. And every woman that died as a result of childbirth or later that wasn't directly related to childbirth, but she was still considered as being in the childbearing period, is recorded in here. Now, our maternal, you know what your maternal mortality rate is here. What is it? Were any of you here yesterday?
About 40%.
Yeah, so your maternal mortality rate here is something like 276 women die per 100,000 maternities in Pakistan. Yeah. It's something like 260, 276 per 100,000. Pardon? Maternal mortality, yeah. In the UK, in the period 2003 to 2005, maternal mortality was 14 deaths per 100,000, and in the period 2011 to 2013, which are the latest figures, number of maternal deaths per 100,000 maternities was 9.
That was in year?
Pardon?
In the year?
Between 2011 to 2013, it was 9. And yours is something way over nearly 300. And still, we are striving to be better. So what is central to the improving maternal mortality and health is the experience, the safety and the effectiveness of maternity care. Yeah. So in Pakistan, the safety of maternity services has to be improved. We have to improve it. Now in the UK,
You have to can understand because you know it's such an important session. Understand anything you can understand easily.
you understand?
We understand.
Yeah.
इसको हम बीच बीच में ट्रांसलेट भी कर रहे हैं चीज़ का इसमें कोई ट्रांसलेट we understand easily.
Did they hear? Then you told them if they don't understand. Oh.
Sorry, Marcia.
Is it okay?
जी मैं वो भी
Oh yeah. You would hear my colleague because she's got a very loud voice. My voice is quiet. Is that okay now, Ijaz? Am I waiting for something else?
We're trying to provide, if you can...
If I could... Do you want me to wait for the mic or continue? In the UK also, the care that the women receive, what they want comes from what they ask for. So nothing really is planned in the UK without asking the women. So they're the ones who are going to be the consumers of the service. We have to listen to what they want. Now there's constant research. We're looking for quality of service, quality of care, and this is the most recent report that has reviewed our maternity services. So it's called Better Births, and it's looking at a 5-year projected period on what we are going to do to improve the maternity services. And in this document, the emphasis is on what the women want. So this is what we are supposed to have an excellent model, but this is what the women wanted. They wanted access to maternity services that is safe and keeps them as safe as possible, number one. The women want to choose what is right for them and their family and the circumstances that they live in. They want the service to fit their life and not us to dictate what it is that they need to have. And they want to feel that the care that we provide is all around them. They're wrapped and protected in that care. A lot of the time they felt that the choice that they wanted wasn't theirs. They felt pressurized by midwives and they felt pressurized by doctors. They absolutely, in the UK, what has been a very recent thing really is that women's care has been labelled. So women have been labelled, or their pregnancies have been labelled high risk, medium risk, or low risk. The women don't like those labels. They do not like to be labelled as high, low, medium risk. They don't like that at all. They wanted the healthcare professionals to listen to them, and whatever it is they said to them had to be taken seriously. They must consider what they say and consider it with seriousness. So if a woman comes to see the midwife and she says to you, "I'm worried my baby's not moving," the midwife should say, "Well, okay, why do you think that is happening? Why do you feel that the baby's not moving? Is it because X, Y, Z?" The midwife might say, "Actually, the baby is moving, but you are probably so busy you don't realise that the baby is moving." And I tell you, in the UK also, what happens sometimes, very often, is a woman will come and she will say, "My baby's coming, I'm going to have my baby now." And the midwife might say, "It's your first baby, you couldn't possibly be ready to have your baby yet." Well, the woman always knows. I think she always knows first. And if a woman tells you something and she's concerned about something, you listen and you don't dismiss it. Because one of the things you need to do as midwives is empower the women, and they are not to be nervous to say whatever it is they want to say to you. They're not to be nervous at all. They should be able to say absolutely anything. What the women in the UK also prefer is for the whole of their pregnancy to be looked after by one midwife, or maybe a team of 2 or 3 midwives. They don't want to see different people every time they come for a visit. They just want to see the one person. They also, now this might be very new to you, in the UK, the fathers, they are heavily involved in the care of the woman. And when we look after the woman, the midwife, really, we don't just look after the woman and the baby, we look after the immediate family. So it is very common in the UK for fathers to be present at the birth. I don't know, are the fathers present at births here, or yes, no? No.
Some areas, most of the areas.
Most of the areas, no. Yeah, so the fathers are.
The father is present at the delivery, means during the delivery, the father is there. So during that father,
It's not in our.
It's not. Oh, not at all. So.
Like in defense, if you go to defense area,
Shall I tell you something? I will tell you something that you're going to find very shocking. Very. It's not allowed.
the husband is present on the day.
for moral support.
So, here is something very, very shocking. My sister-in-law, her father is Pakistani. So she's married to my brother, and they have 6 children. And I delivered all of those babies. So I have 4 nephews and 2 nieces, very beautiful children. And my brother was at every single delivery.
They are living in Pakistan?
No, they live in UK. And my brother, when my sister-in-law was in labour, and her legs were open and the head was coming, my brother,
It's coming or not?
he's looking.
Oh,
He's looking at the baby's head.
the process.
Yes. He said to me, Marcia, what's happening? You know, he could see the baby's hair and he was very excited. And then when the baby was born, he cut the cord. He cut all of their cords. My son, I have 2 grandsons. And I delivered my grandson, and my son delivered the second one because he came quickly. But my brother, when it came to baby number 4, he's just sat in the chair and fell asleep. And he said, oh, Marcia, just wake me up when the head is coming. So he was very, very used to it. Me personally, I think most women get most of the support, or they get the best support from another woman. So a lot of women in the UK, they have their mothers with them or their sisters. Sometimes the sister and the dad, they're all there together. Some households, the whole family, even the tiny children, they're all there. They share the experience because it's a very happy occasion. So the children even observe what's going on. So that is the difference in involving the whole of the family. The women also said that they felt they had a lot of support in the antenatal period and in the intrapartum period, but when it came to the postnatal period, there wasn't that support. It seemed to diminish. Now, for me, when you look at the continuum of childbirth, so ante, intra, post, the most important time for that woman and the most dangerous time is the postnatal period. And that is where a lot of the care needs to be concentrated. So when people keep talking about delivery, anybody can deliver a baby, really. A monkey could deliver a baby, because a baby will really deliver itself. All we do as midwives is we help. The mother does all that work herself and we facilitate it. Of course, we can help with delivery in the second stage by controlling the birth of the head, but for the most part, you know, it'll happen. It's a natural thing. It'll happen on its own. But in the postnatal period, she needs a lot of midwifery support, and she needs a lot of psychological support as well. And people seem to not want to bother with that stage of events. What else do I want to say to you? Sorry. Okay, so that's just a little bit about what goes on in the UK at the moment. So what about identifying and detecting situations in pregnancy, so where we can try and detect when situations are deviating away from the normal? Before you can do that, you have to make sure that before the mother gets pregnant, she is in the best health that she can possibly be. So how do you think you would measure that then? Because a lot of the care is preparatory care. So you do it really ensure this mother has the care before she even gets pregnant. That's the very first thing. So how do you think you're going to do that? How's that going to come about? What would do you teach women? Do you talk to them about their general health? Well, what do you say to them then? What sort of things do you say? But what do you say? Or what do you say, or what things do you look for in preparing?
Regular antenatal visits, checkups,
First of all,
investigation. If she has a medical problem, then we talk about that problem and refer to medical side. If she has any medical disorder, any problem.
If the first baby, then according to the history, if the baby is first regarded as the first time, and if the second baby died, she had experienced some
brief presentation. There's one thing which I mostly focus on the ladies who are, for the second gravida or third gravida. I always tell them to keep maybe the gap,
Oh, have a
To get-
space.
Yeah, to give a space so that the uterus can get the strength back.
So her whole body can get ready. Because how long do you think it takes for a woman to recover from the birth of a baby before she has another one?
I tell them to go for at least for 2 years.
So, and that is good. So I would say a minimum of 12 months easily to before she's recovered and ready to have another baby. It's hard work, isn't it? But even before all what you've been telling me now, do you practice preconceptional care here?
Sometimes. If they are not conceived,
It's
we educate that lady. If she
Conceptual care is a theory here, not in practice. But we are trying and we are teaching to our students that pre-conceptual care must be there, and we now looking forward to have that sort of things in a system that we can perform all these activities.
we educate that lady for ideal period, safe period, and when she was.
oh, so that's good.
She conceives.
So when is the best time to conceive or not? Or not to,
What is your safe days?
Mentally prepared to prepare for
So how do you explain to them then when it is a safe period not to have intercourse, or if she's planning to have a baby, when is the best time? How do you tell them?
Only 21 days.
Because my very esteemed colleague here, she's very experienced midwife who's been in Pakistan for over 40 years, and we were having a very interesting conversation. Do you want to share it, Anita? Yes, because I was very interested.
When I teach family planning in villages, the husband is very important because I know that the woman actually has not much to say. Intercourse takes place when the husband is ready, not when the woman is ready. There is no consent. I'm talking about the extent of our population that lives in villages. I'm not talking about the educated class in Lahore and Islamabad, because I work in villages. Now, what I do in family planning, I get the husband together and the woman together into a room alone. First question is, can you read numbers? I don't expect them to be literate. Usually they can read numbers. Money, anybody knows how to count. Then I look around in the room, have you got a calendar? And actually most women, even in a poor home, they have some sort of calendar. And then I explain to them very simple. When do you think your woman can get pregnant? And amazingly, many men think just when she's bleeding. Because they compare with the dog. Now, then we tell them, this is not so. Now, then I tell the woman and the husband that the moment you tell the husband, actually make sure that he knows when she's bleeding. And if she cannot do it, the husband should mark it on the calendar. A cost on each day, 5 days, 7 days, bleeding. And then I simply say, okay, you want a baby? After 1 week, he finishes her bleeding, you can go to her. And if you don't want a baby, then you send her away to her mother, or I tell her that you go somewhere, find an excuse to leave yourself unless you can control yourself.
Yeah.
And that is a very simplified way. And they understand. And then I make sure, and I say, you must understand one thing, that only during that period we can have a baby. Before and after, you can have a week's time, let's say a week. I'm not exactly for 24 hours, 48 hours in combination, I don't know it all that. Make it just very simple. So, a week after she stopped bleeding, you can have, you can meet her, and if you want a baby, because then she will receive the baby. If you don't want a baby, leave her alone, or send her away to her in-laws, or wherever she wants to go. And or you send your husband away, and then after that, you can carry on until she has the next week and nothing will happen. This is how I think
That is very good. Yeah.
Of the lady, may I ask a question? You talked about preconception a little bit, and you talked about the things, but in reality, how informed are women and men about sex, bodies, conception? Are they informed, the people that you meet, or are they quite naive? What would you say? They're not informed. So they're not informed. No? Is it possible for some of these? Is it possible for some of these women to be pregnant and not know?
Yes.
Actually, you know, when the lady gets pregnant, for the four months they'll keep it secret.
Yeah.
Why?
Yes, it's a
Superstitious. Because they think, you know, baby can get abort or things, you know, something mishap can happen. So they keep it secret for 4 months.
Many people.
After 4 months, they'll let
Oh,
them
no.
know that
So-
she's pregnant.
But you see, that's what makes what we're talking about very important, because I think you are telling Marcia what the best practice is, but actually if women are keeping this secret for 4 months, it's almost impossible for you to give them.
Yeah, they've missed the bus.
Maybe that.
Yes. In
Because some mother-in-laws, they don't want to declare is in our families.
in the UK, in the UK, they might have intercourse yesterday, and then they have a pregnancy test today. They can't wait. Then they tell everybody. They're so excited. Everybody's happy and celebrating, and they can't keep it secret because you need to implement the care that they need by the time they are 10 weeks pregnant. So that is only 2 months, isn't it? Because 4.5, 5 months, it's too late. They need the impetus much sooner, much sooner. So back to preconception care then, because we want our woman to start pregnancy healthy. So before she even gets pregnant, you need to ensure that her diet is good. So I know you talk about diet, but she needs that before she gets pregnant. And I know thalassemia is common in this part of the world, is it? So you need to know what her...
Marcia, could you tell me what good diet is?
Good diet. Well, I was discussing this also with Anita because I'm also very conscious that a significant number of the women are poor women because poverty is a problem. And that's another public health problem that needs addressing. So they need a diet they need an overall general healthy diet, but they do need a diet that's high in protein, and they need a diet that's high in vitamins, carbohydrates, irons. Pardon? Before she even gets pregnant, she needs all of these things. So Anita was telling me, well, dal, there's different types of dal, and that dal is the poor man's meat, she was saying, and chicken is protein. A lot of women can't afford meat, is that right? So they have to look at alternatives. Fish is expensive, I understand, but that is a very excellent source of protein. Fruit, and I know that we're in banana and apple season because your fruits are seasonal, aren't they? So any fruit is good, and vegetables, of course. And I know that spinach is eaten, and that is a good source of iron. Yeah, so they just need to be healthy before they embark on pregnancy. And you also need to know about any pre-existing medical conditions, because they will need to be treated before she gets pregnant, or you need to be aware of them. So things like cardiac disease, renal problems, yeah, they might have any of these problems before they get pregnant. So they need to be treated, and the mother needs to be advised, because for most women with pre-existing medical problems, they will get worse when she's pregnant. So in the UK, we have specialist doctors for heart. So we have cardiologists, we have renal physicians for kidneys, endocrinologists that look after thyroid, diabetes. And when a woman becomes pregnant, if she has any of those conditions, that specialist works with the midwife and the obstetrician to make sure that that woman gets the best care, and they try and make sure that that specialist is in the clinic or at the same time together, so that the woman doesn't have to keep coming to see different specialists. We also, in the UK, diabetes is a very, it's common, but it's a very serious problem all over the world, similarly in the UK. So we now have midwives who only specialise in looking after the diabetic woman. We have midwives specialised who look after teenage mothers. So it's not common here, but in the UK, many girls become pregnant between the ages of 15 and 20, and they are not married. So we have a midwife that specially looks after those women, and really the young girl who gets pregnant, I've looked after girls 12 years old who have had intercourse with boys at school. They don't even know themselves, much less what's going on, but they find themselves pregnant. But they are, if we find out about it, they are cared for. It's not hidden. It's not hidden away. And I was very distressed this week to be told that a young woman in a village became pregnant, and I suppose she kept it secret because she was 6 months pregnant, and then a dye operated on her, didn't she, to try and terminate the pregnancy, and her uterus was perforated, and she ended up in hospital near to death because of it. Now, that could never ever happen in the UK. It just wouldn't happen. And if it did, if somebody did try to do that and we found out about, well, we would know, and that person would be prosecuted and probably prison sentence. It just wouldn't happen. So we need to make sure that she's fit and healthy before she even gets pregnant. And then once she is pregnant, then we need to monitor that pregnancy up until the time of delivery. And this is where now all what you've been telling me comes into play. So a booking history. So you sit down with her and you ask her all about her obstetric history. You want to know her age. You want to know the date of her last normal period. You want to calculate the estimated date of delivery. What else do you, and you need to know the history of all her previous pregnancies, because that will give you a clue as to how she might perform in this forthcoming pregnancy. You know, with any of her last pregnancies, did she need operative delivery? Did she need an instrumental delivery? Did she have hemorrhage? Did she have a live baby? And all of those things you need to ascertain. And once you've got that history, then you need to get baseline observations, and you need those observations before she's 12 weeks pregnant. So 8 weeks is the best time. So then you need to know what her blood pressure is. You need to know what her urine is doing. And in the UK, what is becoming a big problem are fat ladies. Yeah, so they're overweight. And that in itself causes a problem. So we need to, when large ladies come to see us, we need to work out their body mass index. You know about that? Have you heard? Yes. Body mass index. So we need to calculate it and give them advice. Now, you would never say to a woman in pregnancy, you need to lose weight. They can't lose weight while they're in pregnancy. But then that is something for you to follow up when she's had the baby. So now you have your baseline observations. You use that baseline to measure what is going on in the pregnancy. So I know, Anita and I were discussing this as well this morning, that women on the Asian side of the world, their blood pressures tend to be low. They tend to have low blood pressures. The European woman, and when you read textbooks, that is what they use. This is what I call a Eurocentric norm. Now, one size doesn't fit everybody. And in the UK, they fall foul of this as well, because there are a lot of Asian women and there are a lot of women like me, African Caribbean women. Asian women blood pressures tend to be lower than the Europeans. African Caribbean women, their blood pressures tend to be a little bit higher than the European woman. So, in my time as a midwife, I looked after an Asian woman. She lost 3 babies. I moved from that hospital and I went to work in a a professorial unit where women came from all over the region with significant problems. They didn't send them to an ordinary hospital, they sent them to where I was working. And surprisingly, this little Asian lady that I'd looked after in another hospital came to this unit with her 4th pregnancy. Now, if I ask you about preeclampsia, what is the measurement of blood pressure that you look for preeclampsia or to treat preeclampsia? What do you teach?
We'll teach her about the diet she is taking. We'll tell her about the advisor for the no salt diet. You know, because in Pakistan they are very fond of spices.
I'm talking specifically about their blood pressure.
Keep a record. Keep a record of her.
You keep a record of the blood pressure. But what's the measurement?
It should not exceed, the diastolic should not exceed 90.
The diastolic is 90. Okay.
It should not exceed 90.
Sorry? Yeah. 140/90. Right. So that's what you were trying to say. So the cutoff is 140/90. So if a woman has a blood pressure of 140/90, you would think, oh, this woman is maybe heading towards preeclampsia. Now let me tell you, with protein. Okay.
Now we are talking about preeclampsia, not eclampsia.
Plus, okay, so I'm plus proteinuria. So I'm going to come back to proteinuria in a moment. Now, this woman, we want this woman to come and book with the midwife before she's 10 weeks pregnant. And at 10 weeks pregnancy, you take her blood pressure, and her blood pressure is 100/60. And that's normal for her. That's her normal blood pressure. Now, the definition of preeclampsia is an increase in the diastolic blood pressure of 15 millimeters of mercury or above. Now, your woman with a diastolic of 70, or comes to you with a diastolic of 60, and then in her 6th month of pregnancy you find her diastolic is 80, she needs to be treated, or you need to be aware that she could be eclamptic. Her diastolic blood pressure might never go above 90. And this Asian lady that came to me poorly, or that had lost her 3 babies, her diastolic blood pressure never went above 70, but she got preeclampsia. So a lot of the time when you're waiting for this 90, women who have diastolics of 90 here, they would be quite sick. They're going to, yes, they might have eclamptic fits, and they will die because you didn't realize that they were ill. So you have to rethink. Now, or she might need treatment for hypertension. The urine, and that is why you need baseline observations early. The urine, you all know that pluses of protein in urine might be a sign of eclampsia or preeclampsia. But when else would you get protein in the urine? It's not just with eclampsia. So if a woman came to you and she had a plus of protein in her urine, what would you do? With one plus of urine, with 1 plus of protein in her urine.
Maybe she is non-hypertensive patient.
She might be non-hypertensive, yeah. It's the very simple things you need to think about. Number one, how do you test the urine? What do you test the urine in? What do you collect the urine in? In a plastic bottle. Now, if that plastic bottle is not clean, if it's dirty, it might give you this false plus of protein because the bottle is dirty. If the urine that she's passed is contaminated in any way, it'll give you a plus of protein. It doesn't mean, a plus of protein does not mean that she might have preeclampsia. So you need to make sure that the receptacle, the container that the urine is collected in is, I'm not going to say sterile, but as clinically clean as it possibly can be. I don't believe in sterility and aseptic technique. I think we just have to aim to be as clean as we possibly can.
Face and swelling on the face.
So we haven't got to that yet, because most women will have a bit of swelling, won't they? A bit of edema. But what I want to talk about is a condition. Have you heard of
Urine specimen, we have sterilized.
You've got the sterilised bottles.
Plan to pass mid-stream urine in the water. And sterilized tubes are there for collecting urine. All these things
These things you do. So the bottles are sterile. So that's good then. So if you've got your sterile urine and you test it and it's got a plus of protein,
nowadays I think,
or maybe even 2 pluses.
and in the past we were having urine test tubes and rated on a lamp and
The lamp.
see the spike.
Oh, that's
Now the strips are available.
now they've got the strips. So that's fine. Many years ago. Even in the UK, in my office at home, I have the implements where they used to boil the urine. Yeah, no, they don't do that anymore. Not even in my lifetime did I ever see that. But I want to just quickly talk about a condition called asymptomatic bacteriuria. Have you heard of that? Asymptomatic bacteriuria is a condition. I know in the UK 5 to 10% of women who are sexually active or pregnant, they have this condition. I can't write it. An asymptomatic bacteriuria is infected urine, but the woman shows no signs. She has no sign of this condition. And if it is left untreated, thank you. Um, thank you. Yeah, that's it. So if that condition is left untreated, she can develop a frank urinary tract infection, and that could develop into pyelonephritis, so renal infection, and that renal infection can damage the kidneys. And also, the frightening thing with this, if it's untreated, it often causes the woman to go into preterm labour. And we all know what the sequelae of preterm labour can be. Often, if not most of the time, the baby will die. So that condition, if there's urine, if there's protein in that urine, and her blood pressure is fine, and she seems fine, that urine needs to go for microscopy, and they will tell you, I think they measure X amount of bacteria in 10 to the power of 5 per mil of urine. And if it's positive, then she needs to be treated aggressively with the correct antibiotic. And then that will be the end of it. So it is very, very important. Her urine and blood pressure is very important in the very early, in those first 8 to 10 weeks of pregnancy. And thereafter, you will then check her urine and blood pressure at periodic periods in time. So you would aim to see a woman if everything was normal, at least a minimum of 4 times during the whole of her pregnancy. But if she has any concerns, she will come to you. She should have free access to come to you. And the other thing is her hemoglobin. So what do you do with that? And what levels do you work to? What? 12. So you aim for a hemoglobin of around 12. That is. Pardon? So really, you don't want her to have a hemoglobin below 10. No, and I would, even 10, I think is low. And the reason for that is, but why is it that you don't want her to have a hemoglobin that low? It could, if she were a fit, healthy woman, if she was absolutely fit, her weight was good, blood pressure fine, everything fine, well, you might say to her, do you know what, just make sure you've got a good diet. And you would ask her, look, I think you need some iron tablets, or you need some iron supplements. This is what we would say in the UK. And if a midwife said that to me, Marcia, you need iron supplements, I say, well, I'm not taking it. I don't want it. I will try with the diet.
We want to educate her.
But you need to educate her about her diet. But if her hemoglobin is low, she might need help. So do you give iron? You give iron tablets. And do they get those free? No. They have to pay.
Yeah, purchase from medical store.
So,
We
yeah.
educate for cheap food. Vegetables, fruits.
Yeah, but
Sometimes they can buy outside.
it might not be enough. She might just need some supplement.
According to her sources.
According to her resources.
I think government
health workers,
things are provided to the
it's very cheap in our market.
It's-
Folic acid, yeah.
Oh, well, definitely we promote folic acid. But
Once a day, one tablet.
And plus this government is providing these things.
the government's going to...
To health workers
So-
and health providers.
So the government are going to provide iron and folic acid free of charge. Oh, that's a step forward. That is good. In the UK, pregnant women, they don't pay for anything. They get all, well, healthcare is free, if you like, but dental care and going to the dentist and things, they don't pay. They get all of that free. So,
Do you give out those things now, or is that something the government is doing in the future?
do you give iron now? Yeah. Free? Yeah.
Yeah, free of cost.
Yeah.
Government providing it.
Folic sulfate plus iron.
Say that again.
Folic sulfate, folic acid plus iron.
Plus iron. Oh, it's in one.
These all iron supplements.
It's in. Yeah. So that is good.
The question to purchase from shop, which is very
It's very
25
okay. So that's
25 pounds.
so that is good. So that's good. Well,
ये जब कंसेप्शन की बात हुई ना, जब कंसेप्शन होता है ना, तब आयन की बात, इसको डाइट के विटामिन्स, आयन, कंसेप्शन होती है ना, तब वो जब आयन देंगे आप, तो जब प्रेग्नेंट होगी, तो 10 से ज़्यादा
10 जी रिक्वायरमेंट
containing foods होते हैं ना, अंडे का लिवर होता है, वो होता है, सब्जी होती है, या गोश्त, ब्रेड, मीट के ऊपर, चिकन में, चिकन इसको तो प्रोटीन, उनकी तो आयरन जो है ना, चिकन के अंदर बहुत स्ट्रॉन्ग नहीं है, ब्रेड मीट होती है, सब्जी होती है, दाल होती है, उसके लिए ज़्यादा है। So if you prepare before, तो फिर क्या hemoglobin नहीं होगा, ज़्यादा है।
that's okay. So what I was going to say about hemoglobin, if her hemoglobin is low, there is a significant risk of her bleeding after delivery. And hemorrhage is a very major cause of maternal death in Pakistan. So this is why she needs to be healthy before she goes, embarks on a pregnancy. So, any questions? Anybody want to ask me anything? I think it's tea time now, is it? And then, yeah, okay. Thank you very much. I just thank you. Ali, oh, thank you.
माशा से सुन सकते हैं आप उधर? अच्छा माशा ने जो
I just want to stand here.
वो बातें कोई चीज़ जो माँ बहन को ज़रूरत है वो पहले बताएं midwife को, वो कहते हैं ये हमारे दूसरी चीज़ वो कहती है कि कभी उनको आप एम्पावर करो कि क्या प्रॉब्लम है आपको बताओ